right. Hello,
Nice.
everyone. That was a lovely intro. I feel very professional now. We are here today to talk about Portal and what we've been building over the last 3 or 4 months. Portal is an Urbit native. At the moment, it's a social network, but we have some, much bigger aims for it as well. Let me just jump into these slides. So, who are these two Muppets talking to you today? We've got Yuri. Give everyone a wave, Yuri, or dilryd-mopreg. Yuri is a level 7 Hoon journeyman, soon to be, level 8 Hoon master. And I'm Tom. My pappy is foddur-hodler, and I self-identify as an angry goblin / front-end developer. So why are we here? We are going to share some stories about building, a non-trivial social network on Urbit. Hopefully we can help you avoid making similar mistakes to the ones that we did. And hopefully we can give you some tips to help you build your own applications as well, whether they be Hoon tips to help you construct goal agents, or front-end tips to help you, write JavaScript. First, what is Portal? As mentioned, Portal is currently a social network, but it's a little bit more than that as well. Portal is a way for people to find content on Urbit that is interesting to them. I think we're probably all familiar with the challenges of discovery within Urbit. The first time you boot it up, it's basically a blank slate. There are groups that exist specifically to point people to other groups, but if you don't know where that group is, then you're a bit stuck. And so there's a discovery problem here that we're attempting to solve with Portal, but we also recognize that there are other things that we can do with Portal as well. We can give people the ability to curate content within Urbit and point out content that they find interesting to other people, create collections of that content, recommend those collections to other people, as well as just engage in sort of general meta discourse about Urbit or about other topics as well. In the future, hopefully we can allow people to customize their Portal experience as much as possible. I think we're probably all familiar with the problems that exist with current social networks and sort of the fact that algorithms just decide what you see, and you have no ability to really change that. With Portal, ideally, we would allow users to modify the algorithms that end up serving them content that's interesting to them. So we're really aiming for Portal to be sort of the front page of Urbit, to sort of steal the tagline from a website that must not be named. And that means that we want to aggregate all the content that we think is interesting to you on a single page. So whether that be notebooks from groups that you're subscribed to, whether it's posts in heaps within groups, the image posts that you can do, whether it's blogs that have been posted by other people through the blog application or through Studio. We really want Urbit to be the place, we really want Portal, to be the place that people go to sort of get their fix. So Portal is a reasonably complex application, and Yuri is going to help us understand the architecture of how we store items in a distributed manner, and some other things as well. So do you want to take it away, Yuri?
Yeah, sweet. Thank you. Okay, let's take a look at this jumbled slide. So basically, the way that Portal data structure works is very simple. We have items, which is the state of the Go app, which is a map from key to item. Each item has a globally unique key. That is, the key contains, the ship which hosts the item and the type of the item, and then some unique identifier. The thing which is interesting with items is that anything can be an item. And basically everything in Portal is an item. So if you have an app in Portal, that's an item. If you have a group in Portal, that's an item. A feed post, that's an item. The feed itself is an item. And the collection is an item as well. So all of these are item types, which some of those item types, like collections, for example, can contain a list of keys which point to other items. And so a collection does not contain within itself those items, but it actually just contains pointers to wherever those items within Portal are. So here we see one view of 3 collections in Portal. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to break that down. Basically, there is the user profile, which is defined sort of by this main collection, which contains pointers to the collections which this user has created. So for example, the groups I love, the apps I love, etc. And now these collections then contain pointers to whatever item in Portal, whether it be by myself who is creating the collection or by someone else. So in theory, I can point to literally anything in Portal within that collection. And this is pretty elegant and useful. Moving on. So now let's take a look at a bit of a more complicated feature, which is the feed. The feed basically allows us to globally aggregate a conversation which is happening on Portal. And we are using a centralized indexer here, which contains the references to these items which you see in the feed. And so this is where most of the conversation on Portal happens. And we're going to show you how it's done. So here we have 3 parties. The reader of something on Portal, the person who is posting something, and the indexer, which is our ship warp it build it. The indexer contains a list of keys, which is the feed, and the reader syncs their state of the feed with the indexer's state. Therefore, the reader knows which item to get from where, basically. If we go, yeah. So the way the flow looks is basically the poster makes a new post. That key is sent to the indexer and is prepended to the top of the feed. And then if we go to the next, the reader basically syncs the diff, syncs its state via the diff from the indexer. And he finds that key. And then on the next one, we see basically based on that key, the reader can fetch the post from the poster. And this is in essence how the feed works. We have been getting a few questions about how the feed works. This is the mechanism.
Mm-hmm. And we also have comments on posts that exist on the feed, as well as reviews on apps that we'll demo a little bit later. And those are represented in a slightly different way. Is that right? Yeah.
This is something we were thinking about a lot, is how to represent in general this huge graph of content that we want to have, which is, it is comments, but anything can be represented here. As for example, you can see in this image, which I found on in an article which describes Facebook's architecture of their data. And here is basically just a bunch of users, posts, comments, and how these relationships are defined. And this is, the type of data that we have in Portal. And so the question is, how do we do this thing in Hoon? And so let's get to the next. So one attempt of how we might try to represent this social graph data in Hoon is basically we have the usual items, and then within each item we would represent the references to comments or tags, which would maybe reference, other ships, other items, etc. But if we put these social connections into the item, we run into a few problems. What happens when we want to add extra arbitrary connections? What happens if we want to add likes to this item? Then we have to do a state transition. What happens if we want to, aggregate those likes, or see see all the posts this person has liked? Well, then we have to iterate through all the posts to find those likes. So it's like a very inconvenient way to store this data. And so basically what we converged upon as a solution is basically doing what I saw Facebook does in that article, and using Hodzod's social graph in our custom implementation to separate out those things, separate out the raw data, which is in an item, from the connections between items. And so we basically have two databases and two different agents. One agent, DB1, this is sort of what Portal Store looks like, and DB2 is sort of what Portal Graph looks like. And so Portal Store basically just contains items and their data, but doesn't have the information about the connections between these items. And Portal Graph just contains the connections. So this is basically a MIP, which is a map of maps between keys and edges. And so you can imagine this as, just a bunch of nodes and connections between those nodes. And each connection is a path, or even a set of paths, because two nodes can have multiple connections. And we can put an arbitrary thing into this path. So we can put a comment, and we can therefore very easily represent comments like this. You just have a bunch of keys of comments, the key of the post, and you put the connection in the graph. And this allows you some very nice properties.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And so the way this is actually stored in social graph is in two formats. Because this data is not big, it's just keys and paths. We store it in a way where, one, we can search in the nodes. We can search by node, and I want to know all the likes this person made, all the comments this person made, all the comments on this item, right? Or we can search by tag, and then from tag go to comments. So find me all items with tag /sandwich, or find me filter items by the most number of likes, or something like that. And so having this connection actually allows for much more flexibility. The other day I was looking at how score from PalDev works, and it's basically going through all the messages data and looking at the number of emojis that each person has received. But with social graph, this becomes a much more trivial exercise of getting the just getting the right thing from the graph. Oh, this person has all these likes, this message has all these likes pointed in its direction, and we can just immediately retrieve it without doing any sort of loops. Another thing which it affords us is we can add arbitrary connections without using state transitions. So we added comments, and with our most recent feature, we are adding reviews. And it's just you put the connection in the graph, and you don't even need to do a state transition, because you can just add a different tag basically. So this is sort of what I like about this approach. And as time goes on, I want us to expand it to as much as possible in Portal, like maybe even, have the collections, instead of the keys being contained within an item, have those connections be made on the social graph, so that later we can do some interesting sorting and stuff, like, which item is the most referenced in other collections and stuff like this. And so the social graph actually gives us a lot of this flexibility.
Yeah, it seems like, given the amount of code that exists within the portal agent at the moment to deal with state transitions specifically, this seems like a huge win.
Yeah, state transitions are incredibly annoying.
Cool. Thank you, Yuri. Now, building the front end of Portal taught me a lot about sort of just hooking into other applications within Urbit, sort of other goal agents that exist. And you really don't need to know that much Hoon in order to be able to sort of quite confidently integrate with a bunch of different other goal agents that exist on the ship. So if you've used Portal, you've probably seen that we grab a list of like the active radio stations at the moment. We grab a list of your pals. We already have a bunch of sort of profile data within Portal. It's not replicated. And the way that we've done that is not through building sort of complex integrations within our own goal agent. It's just through figuring out which peaks and pokes to use from JavaScript, basically. So hopefully I can teach you in the next sort of 5 minutes to be a professional thief, and you too will be able to build integrations with a bunch of other applications. So for example, if you want to find out what actions you can perform in any given app or goal agent from the front end, as mentioned, you've only got to look in two places, the on-peak and the on-poke arms of an agent. You just control F those within the agent's code, you will be sort of well on your way to understanding what it's possible to do from a front end. Obviously, this part of the talk is directed at people who are not necessarily Hoon devs. So it's anyone else is probably pretty familiar with this. It does help to understand a small amount of figuring out how to structure pokes mostly, such as bucklust types, terms, and cells. But other than that, you don't really need to know too much. So let's say, for example, you want to load the profile data of ships you've encountered on the network. How do you find that? Or how can you figure out how to do it? So first of all, do you see the data being used anywhere else? Is there an application that already does this? And if there is, can you find the peak arm that returns that data? Those are basically the two questions that you have to answer. And if you can't answer either of those questions, you can use the next tip that I'll show you to sort of wang-jangle your way around having to solve this problem. So this is something I did a lot building Portal whilst trying to figure out how other applications work and how I could replicate functionality from things like landscape, groups, and radio, and stuff like that. So if you want to copy a feature that another app has, open it up, go to where that action is performed, open the network tab, perform the action, and rabbit hunt for the correct request, and that's it. Basically, you have all of what you need in order to replicate that functionality. So in our case, we went to landscape, we tried to install an app, and we just look at the poke that it sends, and we can effectively just copy the entire structure of that thing without necessarily having to sift through all of the core code that exists and try to find the exact on poke sort of the branch of the on poke arm that deals with installing apps. We can literally just rip it straight from the browser, which is cool. Yeah, use that, build composable applications. It's really fun. Yuri, you have something you want to talk about regarding our lessons learned using solid state subscriptions, right?
Yup. Yeah, yes, indeed. So this is what happens when you use solid state subscriptions and push it to like 300 chips. You get 100% CPU usage. And at the time, we really didn't know what was happening. We just like randomly found out that Warped Build It, our indexer chip, is using a bunch of CPU, too much for it to make sense. And then we heard from other people that their chips are doing it as well. And we had no idea really what was going on. But eventually we figured it out. And yeah. And basically we looked into how solid state subscriptions are implemented, and they're implemented with pokes, meaning, the event loop is being hit a lot, which causes all these, spikes in performance. And so how this works, what is actually happening is that the publisher keeps a log of the subscribers to which he's sending this data. And the subscribers, like every 25 seconds, the subscribers let the publisher know that they are still interested. So like, hey, I'm still interested. Hey, I'm still interested. And if the publisher doesn't hear from the subscriber goes off the log. And so the publisher knows that he doesn't need to send the data to the subscriber. Now, this is like a very weird trade-off of like, the publisher having to keep like one extra ship in the log of ships who he needs to send data to for like a poke every 25 seconds. And, the way that worked in our case is, when you post something to the feed, you have like 300 people looking at it. And so you have 300 subscribers. Let's say you make 5 posts, which we make every post on a separate path, which, in retrospect maybe isn't the smartest thing. And so let's say 300 subscribers, five paths on the publisher. And so let's do some, mathematics here, napkin math. You divide 300 by every 25 seconds, multiply by 5. And basically you get that the publisher receives 60 pokes per second. And that was happening to pretty much everybody, who published something on Portal, which is like bad, very bad. And so the way we fixed it, as the gigabrains we are, is, well, of course, Vikram Vikram helped us with this, but basically we just increased the timers to like 30 minutes, and now everything's working fine. Like as soon as we changed that, the CPU usage dropped immediately and everything worked fine. And so, the lesson here is, if you're using SSS for something which a lot of people will use, you will have a lot of subscribers, a lot of pings, increase that timer. And I have written a small comment in simple.hoon, which you can look at, which explains how to do it. So that, collectively as Urbit developers, we don't do bad stuff to people's ships.
Yeah, I guess increasing the timer is one way, or sort of looking at your application and figuring out, do I really need this many subscription paths would maybe be the next way. Yeah. All right. And now we want to do a quick demo to show the the features that we've built over the last week or two that kind of allow Portal to take on a few of the features of an app store. So you now have the ability to review applications within Portal. And if you're a developer of an application, you can add screenshots to show people what that app looks like as well. So I'm going to back out of this presentation and I am going to share my entire screen and jump into my terminal. So first things first, actually, let's take a look at Portal. So I have a couple of users of Portal set up here in my browser. This is just running on localhost, but I have a Moon, WinPEX WidTev, and I have a Moon DocTalk BizNet. And these two ships are effectively the same person. So during this demo, these two ships are kind of owned by the same person. So what I'm going to show you is that if you have your app hosted on a Moon and you want to authorize your main ship to sort of be the administrator of the app listing that you have, we're going to show you how to do that. So in a lot of cases, you might have your main ship as your daily driver, but you host your application on your Moon and you don't necessarily want to install other applications on that Moon, which makes a ton of sense. So here DocTalk has published 3 applications. We've got Hello, which is a test app I published earlier. We've actually got the app publisher, which is the thing that we're actually going to use. And we have the demo application that we are going to transfer sort of ownership of to WinPEX WidTev. And if you look at WinPEX WidTev, you can see that they published the Portal application on my sort of local environment, and they've also published this Hello application, which is one I was using to test earlier. So if we go to DocTalk and we go to DocTalk's terminal, we will be able to hand custody of that app over to WinPEX by effectively just signing a message. So we're going to invoke the Portal app publisher here. And this Portal app publisher, we're going to sign an application over to WinPEX WidTev foddur-hodler, and we're just going to give it the name of the desk that we want to hand over, which in our case is demo. The demo desk is just the simplest possible application with a docket file and a ship file and stuff like that. So if I hit enter, it should work. So you can see that the demo gods have been reasonably kind thus far. And we have received a message over here on WinPEX that says the signature is valid. And if we go back to our browser and we go to WinPEX, maybe hit refresh, you can see that now we have been assigned the demo app. So that demo app has lodged itself in the collection of applications that we have published. So if we go to this demo app, you can see that the name, the author name is maintained. It's sort of specifies that WinPEX is the developer of this application. If you hit install, it will actually go and fetch it from the correct place. It will go and fetch it from DocTalk, who is the host of the application. And now we can also add screenshots to show people what the app looks like. So if I do that real quick and just take a screenshot of my browser and wait for this to disappear, which it will do. Whatever, let's upload this one. You can see that you can add screenshots for your application. You can delete them, so on and so forth. You can also chuck a review on the app. You can do this if you are the publisher. Go ahead, give your own app 5 stars. Great app. Demo went extremely well. And other people who navigate to this app will be able to see that. And we give apps a sort of aggregated score here as well. So that is roughly it. Is there anything I missed in that explanation, Yuri?
No, I think people get it. Looking at the comments, you explained it well.
Cool. Awesome. And where can the people get Portal App Publisher from?
From Warp It Build It, the same ship as
install Warp It Build It.
Yep.
Portal App Publisher.
Send Portal App Publisher. Yeah, the clunkiest name in the world.
Yeah, you should chuck that in the old chat. But yeah, that's it. So I don't think I have any more slides to share. I think that's sort of roughly the content of the talk. I know we jumped around a little bit. Hopefully there was something useful for everyone in there. And yeah, happy to take questions.
Yes, there's one question, which is, what are your thoughts on grabbing detailed user profiles from Senwhom?
From Senwhom? I don't know if I've got Senwhom. I don't know. I guess we could get detailed profiles from Senwhom. There's no reason that we wouldn't be able to. Yeah. What kind of content is in the profile in Senwhom? That would be interesting for me to know. Any other questions that we should answer in the chat, Yuri? Using 100% of your brain is good, no? Yeah, well, it depends. If you always want to keep a little bit of your brain power in reserve, just in case something unexpected happens, I would say. Pals and bios, same content as group's profile, plus arbitrary customizable contact info. Cool. Yeah, definitely. We can pull content out of whom. Why not? I will give it a go the next time I'm in the coffee shop. Groovy. What should we do? Should we go to GatherTown and hang out? Or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that would be better. And then we don't have to sort of have this weird, clunky, asynchronous chat where you type messages to moving faces. That would be fun. So yeah, I don't know if Sam wants to jump back in. Maybe he's left, gone to bed.
No. We're the ones who close the show.
We close the show? Awesome.
We close the show, yeah.
Groovy. In that case, we will be in the Urbit GatherTown for like as long, I don't know, for a bit, I guess. And we'll see you there. Any last words, Yuri?
Thanks for listening.
All right. Ciao.
See you later.